Here's a list of changes from the book to the show of every year after that actually made sense and why they made sense. First up, Sam not immediately breaking up with Taylor and instead deciding to propose. I have a whole video about why I think he did this, but I think it made sense for his character. I think that it made sense that in this moment he would be in the throes of grief and not thinking that clearly. He has just lost his mother. Someone from his past who was once the love of his life has come back into his life after disappearing for 10 years. He is going to be confused. He is going to be overwhelmed. It is very natural and understandable that he would try to latch on to the one thing that makes him feel stable in that moment. And in that time, it was Taylor. This next point is kind of 2 points. Charlie not wanting Percy to be there, and also Sam not knowing about Percy and Charlie. This was the biggest change from the book to the show, and I think it was almost inevitable. When reading the book, knowing this was going to be turned into a show, I kind of knew that they would have to change this plot point, because it removes a major obstacle and a major conflict of the actual plot. Present day Sam in the book is so understanding that he has basically no character progression. He meets Percy and is immediately like, yep, it's you. He knows about Percy and Charlie sleeping together already and is like, yeah, I was annoyed, but I've already prepared to forgive you. There's not really anywhere to go with that. For a show, when you're watching it, especially when it's episodic and you've expanded the world a bit more, we needed to see him actually feel the feelings. When reading the book, it felt like every single time there was a conflict in play, Sam went like, actually, no, I've already fixed that for us, we can move on. And it almost felt like you got to a climax and then were gently pulled back because nothing actually really happened. The show didn't do that. They tried to actually show you actual climaxes. They tried to show you genuine obstacles that these characters had to get over. It made it messier, it made it more enjoyable to watch. And from a TV perspective, they needed those stakes. It helped the narrative. It helped push everything forward. It helped the characters grow. Another change that was good was bringing Chantel and Geordie to the forefront and making them confidants for Percy and Sam respectively. However, they were way too often used because they took over a lot of the screen time that I think should have been to Percy and Sam. But them having friends during the present day and people to actually confide in about what they were feeling and people who knew them well enough to be like, this isn't you, and like, you actually need to confront this, was good. It wasn't great that in the book they were just in this bubble together. It seemed like they were almost becoming codependent, whereas in the show that wasn't the case. But again, they spent way too much time on Chantal and Geordie and Delilah's entire storylines. They should have had way less of that. Another change that I think was good was Charlie not actually being Percy's first kiss. A lot of people said that this was a change that they found upsetting because it was great that Charlie was Percy's first kiss, and I'm not really sure why. I don't really see that being a good element. When in reading the book, I was like, isn't he like quite older than her? And she's like 14. In the show, looking at those actors, there was a age discrepancy. It would have been a bit odd. It wouldn't have been super weird, but it would have been odd. I think it also better sets up the big secret and the big reveal and sets them up better for Sam genuinely forgiving them in the future. Because if Percy and Charlie had been the first kiss, if that had been Percy's first kiss, if we had seen them growing closer over years, like she had been with Sam, it becomes more of a brother's romance, which it never was. It was always about Percy and Sam. The fact that Charlie and Percy didn't kiss and they just slept together one time makes it more seem like it was a genuine mistake, a genuine error. They hadn't been pining for each other for years. And the fact that Charlie had said he had in the book made it odd for me. It made it a little weird. This isn't a samurai turned pretty brothers romance, and that change made it clearer, and I think it was good and beneficial for audiences who hadn't read the book, because there are going to be people who haven't read the book. Along the same lines, Charlie's character was changed for the show. In the book, he is much more understanding. He wants Percy in Barry's Bay. He's like, yeah, you're back. He keeps calling Sam a dumbass because he knows they're meant to be together. In the show, it's very different. Charlie has almost a completely new storyline, which I think worked well. I think that Charlie was the best written character on the show. He was one of the only characters, if not the only character, that had a genuine character progression and arc throughout this narrative. We saw him go through all the uncomfortable conversations with people that were relevant. We saw him progress from this character who didn't really care about anything, didn't really care about anyone, didn't really want to be in a relationship, to realizing that this was wrong, to wanting to change, to that being too late. I thought that was a great character progression, and we saw every single stage and every single uncomfortable situation that came with that. And I think the best part about this is that it sets him up so well for his season next, ideally, if it is next. A lot of people were upset with this. They thought that his character shouldn't have been this rude and shouldn't have been this mean and shouldn't have been this selfish. But I think he was quite selfish in the book as well. I think they just emphasized that. They made it a bit more hyperbolic, which wasn't to a detriment to the show. I think it worked well. We still got from point A to point B. They just added a lot of stuff in the middle to make it interesting. Another change, Percy and Sam slept together when they were younger, and I thought this was good. Percy was actually Sam's first time. This wasn't the case in the show. When we meet them 12 years later, they still had never actually slept together. And so when they do, it's this big thing that they've been waiting all this time. I think it's a little more realistic that as teenagers and as 18-year-olds, they would have slept together. Especially considering how long they'd been together and how long they'd actually wanted to be together. It just made more sense. And finally, a change I thought really worked was Percy telling Sam the truth about her and Charlie before she kisses him, before she sleeps with him, before anything. In the books, Percy keeps this secret to herself without telling Sam twice, because she sleeps with him once and sleeps with him again twice before she eventually comes clean. And it's a bit more odd why she would go through with this, why she would be okay with sleeping with Sam and doing all this stuff when she knows she has this big secret over her head. She didn't know in the book that Sam knew. So she was doing this knowing that she was keeping something massive from him. I think in the show, having Percy immediately stop before Sam can even kiss her sets her up better to be forgiven. It'd be harder to watch someone sleep with him and then admit this horrible thing, especially since they'd changed it to him not knowing. And I think even if he had known, watching her do that still would have been uncomfortable. It still would have been like she had kind of got one up on him, and it's not good. It feels like taking advantage when you know something that the other person doesn't. So these were a list of changes that I actually thought worked from the book to the show. Let me know if you have any others below. I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this because this book is so beloved and it was changed quite heavily for the show.